Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for checking out today's video. Today I'm going to be finishing off the shifter assembly in the WRX. So we did the shifter plate, the shifter bushing, the shifter stop, and the shift knob, all from Billetworkz. So today we're finishing adding the final piece of the puzzle, which is the shifter itself. So we're going to be installing the Billetworkz Short Shifter into the car. This is going to allow the shifter to sit a little bit lower and give us even shorter throws than what we already have with our shifter plate. And I think it's going to be a really nice way to wrap things up. So we'll kind of install it. I'll show you all the tools that you're going to need to install it. I'll walk you through the whole thing so that you can go into this with your own car with confidence, know what you need, know how to do it, and not be scared. Because it really isn't a bad install at all. And I know you might watch some other people's videos and they're doing it on a lift and you know they got all these fancy tools and it might look intimidating, and I promise you it's really not. It is a little time consuming, so set a little bit of time aside, grab your buddies, grab some beer or soda or whatever you drink, and put on some music, have a good time, and enjoy your shifter. I'm gonna show you how to do all that today. We'll dive right into it. Today's video is sponsored by Billetworkz. However, as always, I only work with brands that I love and trust, and I actually reached out to Billetworkz to do this video and get the shifter. So with that, we'll just go ahead and dive right into it. Let's get started. All right, guys, so I laid out everything on the table that you're gonna need for today's install. Let's start with some gloves. You don't need them, but trust me, when you get the shifter out of the car, there's grease on everything. So having gloves is gonna be a nice bonus advantage for you. Obviously, your Billetworkz shifter, we have some snap ring pliers, a 2mm and a 3mm Allen key or hex key, a 17mm wrench, a flathead screwdriver, a Phillips head screwdriver, and then I have a 3mm punch and a 1.5mm punch. Not sure which one I'm going to need yet. I honestly forget. So I just got both out. Some extensions that we may or may not need. It's nice to have. 12mm socket, 10mm socket, some white lithium grease, and a ratchet or impact or both. And I always use my magnetic tool tray to sit all my bolts in so I don't lose them. Go ahead and get your car jacked up in the air. One thing that I need to get for my jack is one of those pads that's made for jacking up on pinch welds, because eventually if you do this too many times on your factory pinch welds without one of those pads, you'll eventually bend them and it gets messy under there. Of course, get your jack stands. Okay, so we are going to climb under my very dirty car. There's mud everywhere, and we're going to remove this heat shield here above the exhaust. So there's 6 12mm bolts that need to come out to remove this. One is back here, which might be a little hard for you to see. One here, one here, one here, and then 2 up front there. So we're just going to pull all those out and drop the heat shield. That is a tight fit. I'm actually not going to be able to pull that all out with the way I have the car jacked up. So I'm just going to leave it there where I pulled it back to. It'll be fine because we just need to get to the shifter box. So now you guys should be able to see the shifter box. There is 4 10mm bolts. You're seeing 2 of them right now. And then there are 2 on the opposite side. We're going to remove all 4 of those. With those 4 10mm removed, we should be able to just drop this plate and slide it out. Now inside of the shifter box, there's going to be 4 10mm bolts again. We're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know if you can see the backside ones, but it's on the opposite side. And then we will remove the linkage. So let's pull those 10mm out first. So now we have this white clip here. What we're going to have to do is take and pry out on these metal tabs. So we're going to pull this one out, pull the other one out, and kind of pull down at the same time, and that will be released. And then this one here on the side, we are just going to pull straight out, and that'll pop right off. Now the rest of the work is on the inside of the car. I got so much crap in my eyes. So now on the inside of the car, we're going to remove the shift knob. Don't panic, your shifter is going to be completely disengaged from the linkage. Now we're going to pull up on our shift bezel and remove the entire thing. We can pull up on our e-brake boot and unclip that. I know it's out of view, but go ahead and lift up your armrest, and then we can kind of pull up on this trim here. And we can set that aside. So now we can remove these two Phillips head screws. So up here on the right hand side of the shifter, you're going to see this little brown clip that is holding in the wire harness. We can take our flathead screwdriver and just push in one side, start pulling, pushing the other side. And we should be able to kind of pry this out. Oh, so now we have 4 12mm bolts to remove. Boom, 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 boom. I did forget one thing, and that's on the opposite side of that brown clip. There's a black clip holding in a separate wiring harness, so I need to remove that also. But once you have that unclipped and removed, you should be able to pull the shifter assembly up and out of the car. Just give it a nice pull, and here is our shifter assembly. So right about now is when we're going to want to put some gloves on. It's going to get kind of messy. We're going to start by removing this Phillips head screw, holding this bracket to the plastic trim. And then we have a 12mm bolt that needs removed right here. Now on the front side here, this is going to be a 17mm. And on the back side, this is a 10mm. So we're going to put a 10mm socket on that and a 17mm wrench on this. Once that's broke loose, we can just spin this off. Set that aside. We'll also need to remove this bracket, which I forgot that we need to remove. Set that aside. I already have grease all over myself. It's on everything. So now we're going to push this bolt through. And pull that out, set that aside, and we can remove all of this fun stuff. There's all of our grease. So now we'll remove these two 7mm nuts. I thought they were 8mm, but they're 7. And now we can push these out. Let's set those aside. And pull the shifter assembly out of the plastic. Now we're going to need to remove these two 10mm bolts. You can see that the shifter is ready to come out now, but it can't because we're hitting all this factory plastic. So what we need to do is remove this factory plastic. So we're going to take and remove this O-ring. And then we can take our punch and punch out this little roll pin right in here. All right, so I have that out now. All I'm going to do is grab onto my pliers and pull it out the rest of the way. At least that one came out. So once you have the roll pin removed, you should just be able to slide this plastic right off the shifter. However, I have the BilletWorkz adapters here for the shift knob, so I'm going to have to take those off to pull this off, but that's it. Then it'll slide right off. Once you have that plastic removed, you can remove your entire shifter out of this plastic casing. So here's a little size comparison of the OEM shifter next to the BilletWorkz one. So now we have to get our BilletWorkz shifter inside of our factory housing, and obviously we can't do that because the reverse lockout's on there, which is where we need to get our Allen keys out and remove this. So we can remove, these are just going to be loosely threaded in there from BilletWorkz. We can tighten them down after we reinstall. This is going to be spring loaded. It's going to kind of shoot down on you. So we'll slide our lockout off. And then we have this retainer ring. I switched to some straight ones here. So hopefully I can get better leverage on it. Looks like I'll be able to. Much better. Just leave that on there for now. So now we can slide that ring off. Slide the spring off, slide the reverse lockout off, and there is our stripped down BilletWorkz shifter. Now we're going to grab our stock shifter. We're going to pop off this bottom white cap here. Now it's going to get really greasy because now we're going to grease everything. So we're going to add some white lithium grease to this pivot ball and install our shifter into it. Now we need to grease up our pivot ball on the shifter, so we'll put some lithium grease on here and just smear it all around. And take our BilletWorkz shifter and slide it into the body. And then we can reinstall this piece here. When you're about to reassemble your shifter and you go to put this plate back on just like this, 9 times out of 10, when you flip this thing upside down to work on it, this bad boy right here is falling out. This actually slides down in here like so. Make sure that is in there when you reinstall this plate. Once those are in, now we can reinstall the reverse lockout back onto the shifter. So now we can slide our reverse lockout down on, and make sure that when you slide this down, that this extended piece, this little chin here, is facing towards your factory shifter stop. So this black piece right here. This is going to need to lift up and go over that to get into reverse. So make sure it's oriented correctly. Slide this snap ring down and it'll click into that groove. So now we can pull up on our lockout until you see this hole down here, and we can thread in the bolt. We can get the top half of our reverse lockout, slide it down onto the bottom half, and we can reinstall the bolts. So now we can take our shifter, slide it back into the plastic casing, reinstall our bolts here. Now we slide this back in, push it through, grab our bolts, and slide that back through. So we're going to grab this piece again, make sure if this metal rod comes out, you reinsert that. And then these little cutouts are where these gray spring-loaded tabs are going to go. So we're going to kind of slide that in here and almost push down on it and kind of get it in there that way. Once we have that in there and lined up, we can grab our crazy little washer there. If anyone knows what these are called, let me know, because I don't know. It's a crazy little washer. So we'll line this hole back up, put a little bit of pressure on this rod here, and then slide that in and start to thread that on. Again, that's our 12 millimeter. All right, now we can reinstall our brackets. All right, now we're on the home stretch. We can go install this back into the car, and we're basically just gonna do everything that we did in reverse. Oh, maybe I can do it one-handed. So once you have this assembly back in, we're just gonna reinstall our 4 12 millimeter bolts. We'll reinstall the 2 clips that hold the wiring harness on, and then we'll reinstall our 2 Phillips head screws, reinstall the dash trim, clip it all back together, and then we can go back under the car. So before we actually slide back under the car, one thing that I wanted to note is that some people are having issues with the shifter catching on the plate here that I have in my hand. And on the inside, it would be catching right about here somewhere and basically just not resetting the shifter to neutral. I'm not sure what is causing that. So if you want to play it safe and you don't want to worry about it, which I'm just going to do to show you guys how I'm doing it, you literally just want to dent this plate right here. Right here. So you can take some exhaust hangers or take some wood blocks or whatever you have laying around. I just happen to have like 20,000 exhaust hangers. Literally all I'm doing. So here you can see the plate now. I just dented this section right here. So you can see it just bulges out there now. In case that would have ever been an issue, now it's not going to be an issue. Not a big deal. Again, I wouldn't worry about it, but if you do have the problem, that's how you fix it. But guys, I feel like this video is probably getting very long, so I'm just going to go under the car. I'm going to reinstall everything. It all goes back together the exact same way that it came apart. There's nothing different at all about the reinstall. And then I'll reinstall the plate. I'll show you what it looks like, show you that it still seals up fine, and then we're all done, and I'll give you my review. Even with that dented in section, it is still sealing up perfectly fine. And again, you probably don't even need to do that, but if you run into an issue, that's the fix for it. Okay, this is actually wild. This shifter is so short, so notchy, and so crisp that I don't know if some of you are going to like it. I think the shifter in itself, or the shifter plate in itself, might be better suited for the average person that just wants a shorter shift. This is a little bit crazy, but I like it. I don't know how exactly to word this, but I think that this is going to be controversial. I think that some people are going to not like this, and other people like me are going to absolutely love this. This feels amazing to me. I don't know how to describe what it feels like besides notchy, very short, and like tight. Like it just feels very, very sporty. It went from feeling like a complete slop box to like, it feels like a gated shifter or something. Like this feels insane. I would say it takes more effort to shift. Like I think it requires more strength. Like you're forcing it a little bit harder than you would on the factory shifter to get it into gear and get it out of gear. But I don't think it's like so much that it's like unbearable or anything. It's a little bit more effort on your part to, not so much effort, but force. It just requires a little bit more force. The shifting, when you go to engage the gears, it feels very direct and very crisp and very short. So if that's what you're looking for, this is great. I love it. I freaking love it. It feels like a race car shifter. Like it feels incredible. It feels like a new transmission. I said that with the shifter plate, but it feels like going from the shifter plate to the short shifter and the shifter plate is just, it's just stupid. Well guys, I was editing the video and realized I never even made an outro, so final conclusion, because actually now I've had the shifter in the car for a little over a week, I still love it. I think it's a great shifter, and I think it's just crazy. Going from stock to what it is now is just, it's completely different. So my final conclusion is, after a week of having it, if you want a shorter throw, I would do either A, the shifter plate, or B, the short shifter. And just enjoy it. So I would pick the plate if you just want shorter throws and you don't want to reduce the height of the shifter. If you want to reduce the height of the shifter and want shorter throws, maybe just do the short shifter. If you want it to be extremely short and have extremely short, notchy, crisp throws, then do both if you like that sort of thing. I love it, but you might not. Worst case scenario, you get them both. If you don't like it, you take one of them out. If you're going to take one of them out, the shifter plate would be the easier one to do. But I think they pair well together. I think it feels great. But I know this video is extremely long. I just wanted to cover all the bases, get everything, filmed for you so you know exactly what you're doing and you can go into the install with confidence. But that's going to be it with today's video, guys. I appreciate you checking it out. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I will leave a link in the description to the short shifter kit from BilletWorkz. But that's going to be it, guys. I'll see you in the next one.